Hello everyone. Today, we'll be going over how to embed components in a component prototyping in Figma. This is a very practical and frequently used method when a designer demonstrates a multi-step function on a web page mark to the client. Through this prototyping skill, your client will instantly understand the whole web function process clearly and get the best visual effect with no coding needed. We will start by showing you how this function is working, then explain how we can create the base components and how we can embed those components into the main component and set up the prototyping step by step. So let's check it out. Step 1. How this demo function processes. As you can see, our client wants to have a function called delivery check on the product page directly under the Add to my bag button. By default, this function will check your current zip code to see if this product can be delivered. It currently shows it is unavailable in the 10001 area, which allows the user to click the Edit Location link to input a new zip code. Once you can see the input area is not open, and you can click the Enter zip code to change a new one. For example, 90045. Then click the arrow button. After that, this function will tell that it can deliver to this area, and the input element is closed automatically. You may notice that when the user hovers the link can have an underline, and when he hovers the arrow button, the arrow is moved to the right. Both the link and the arrow can also take the click action to lead the main element to move to the next step. This is what we will use to embed it component skill to fulfill this. Let's do it by starting the base components. Step 2. Create the link base component. Firstly, we will create a text element, make it a component, then create a variant by clicking here. Name it hover. Then for this hover text, we can set it with an underline and change it with a darker color. After that, we can set interaction between the two variants. Click the second sheet link, prototype. We will drag the dot from the default variant to the hover variant. On the interaction detail panel, we choose the trigger to mouse enter. Set animation to Smart Animate, ease out, 60 millisecond duration. Then we drag the dot from the hover variant to the default variant and do the opposite transition. The only difference is the trigger should be set to mouse leave. The first base component now is done. Step 3. Create the arrow button base component. Now it's time to set up the second base component. We made this small arrow icon. Then set it as a component. Same as the first base component, we create a variant named hover. Before we make the interaction, please pay attention here. We will choose both the arrow element from each variant through here, the element tree. Then on the right panel, we find out the constraints. Then we will set the left and top as the constraints. This operation is to make sure when the component frame is resizing, the arrow itself should not resize along with the frame. Now what we need to do is to make both the variants a little wider. We can click the default and hover nodes on the element tree. Then on the right panel, we found out the frame, set the W from 21 to 26 to make them 5 pixels wider. After that, we can pick the arrow in the hover variant, move it to 5 pixels to the right, and change it to a darker color. This operation is to make sure that when the arrow icon hovers, it will move to the right. Then we will set up the interaction between the variants, just exactly as the first base component. Now the second base component is done. Step 4. Create the main component. Once the base components are done, we can drag them from the Assets panel here one by one to create the instances of these two base components. Now we can design the main component. As you can see here, we have the gray background shape, the truck icon, the information title, the input box, and the two base components embedded here as the link edit location and the arrow button as the input trigger. Now we need to set the whole input box as fully transparent. The user doesn't need to see this input box at the very beginning. He only sees the current zip is unavailable for delivery. Then we combine everything to create the main component. Step 5. Create the variants of the main component. By clicking the plus here, we create the first variant and name it S1, which means step 1. We can also name the default variant as S0. Enlarge the background. In S1, we set the input box to be fully solid and move it down. Then update the link text to cancel. That is okay for S1. Then we can now select the S1 and click the purple button here. Figma will help you to create another variant based on S1. We can name it S2. In S2, we just update the enter zip code to 90045 as the new zip code example. Then we can now select the S0 and click the purple plus button to create the last variant based on S1 and name it S3. From here, we only update the information title to delivery available in 90045 and make the available in blue color. Step 6. Set up the interaction of the main component. Now all variants are done. We can set up the interaction between S0, S1, S2, and S3. Firstly, we can drag the link text of S0 to S1 to create the first step move. Set the trigger to onClick, and the animation is Smart Animation with ease out within 300 millisecond duration. Secondly, we do the same from S1 to S0 by dragging the cancel link from S1 to S0. Then drag the enter zip code from S1 to S2. The interaction details are the same as the first one. Lastly, we will drag the arrow button from S2 to S3 to complete the interaction process. The interaction is the same. OnClick, Smart Animation, with ease out within 300 millisecond duration. Step 7. Check your design. Now all settings are done. Time to check the visual effect. We will run the prototype of this page in Figma. You can see that at the beginning, it tells the user the product cannot be delivered to 1001. The user can try another zip. Then the mouse is hovering over the link edit location. This link will have an underline and get darker, which means the embedded component is working. By clicking the link, the main component opens up to let the user input the new zip. Because all the variants of the main component are using the same element names, we suggest using the Smart Animate type to make sure all the animation effects are smooth. Now the user clicks the zip to change to a new zip code, then hovers the arrow button. The arrow button will move to the right to indicate the user to click it. After clicking this arrow, the element is automatically closed and the information title is updated. If you want to re-show the whole process, Figma lets you quickly go back to the very beginning status by just clicking the R key on your keyboard. Then you can show this wonderful prototyping process to the client again. And there you have it. Embedded components prototyping can help us build more complex effects and full process functions in a web page design easily and efficiently. Your client can review the whole function without any coding. So why waiting? Try this skill today and make your specific function live on your prototypes. Thanks for watching and see you soon.